The whole city believed Adrian Cole, the CEO of Cole Industries, was a man made of stone, someone impossible to please, strict to the point of cruelty, and allergic to weakness. But that night at 11:47 p.m., when he secretly followed an employee he had fired just hours earlier, everything he thought he knew about discipline, loyalty, and being human broke apart. And the moment he saw what that man was doing in the darkness, he realized he had made the biggest mistake of his life. The story begins earlier that same morning, with a single father fighting a battle no one else could see. Noah Hayes woke up to the sound of his 7-year-old son coughing deep, painful, chest-tightening coughs that made Noah panic even before he checked his phone. The alarm hadn't gone off. It was already 6:03 a.m. He had barely slept the night before, sitting with Liam, placing cold cloths on his burning forehead, whispering comfort into the darkness. But morning came too fast, like it always did in the life of a struggling father. Liam was shivering despite the blanket. Noah felt his heart twist. He couldn't miss work. Not this job. Cole Industries had finally given him a stable position after months of hopping between part-time shifts. He had promised them he would never be late. But how do you leave a sick child who only has you? Dad, don't go, Liam whispered, eyes watery, breath weak. Those words stabbed deeper than any reprimand from any boss ever could. But reality didn't care about emotions. Reality needed rent, medicine, food. Noah scrambled, cold water, medicine, cartoons to distract him, but nothing helped. He called the neighbor auntie, but she didn't pick up. He called again. And again. Time slipped through his fingers like sand. By the time Liam's fever eased a little, it was already 7:50 a.m. Noah grabbed his backpack, kissed Liam's forehead, and sprinted. He reached the office 29 minutes late. And that was all it took. As soon as he walked into the lobby, breathless and drenched in sweat, the elevator opened. The entire building seemed to hold its breath. Out stepped the CEO himself, Adrian Cole, crisp black suit, cold steel eyes, the kind of presence that made the air heavier. Mr. Hayes, Adrian said without raising his voice. My office. Now. Those 3 words felt like a verdict. In the glass office on the top floor, Adrian didn't sit. He didn't smile. He just looked at Noah like he had already failed. You're late. Again. It's just today, sir, Noah said quickly. My son is sick. Everyone has excuses. It's not an excuse. I'm a single father. There was no one to watch him. Then you should have made arrangements. This company runs on discipline. If you can't handle the job, you don't belong here. Noah felt something collapse in his chest. Please, sir. I need this job. My son, this is a business, not a charity. You are done here. Collect your things. The words hit with more force than any shout ever could. Adrian didn't flinch. Didn't soften. Didn't give a second thought. Noah nodded silently, throat burning, but tears refused to fall because he had trained himself to be strong in front of people who didn't care. He packed his things while co-workers pretended not to see the humiliation. By 5 p.m., he walked out with a box under his arm and exhaustion in his soul, but the story didn't end there. It started again when Adrian, alone in his penthouse office late at night, saw a silhouette outside on the empty street, a figure he recognized. Noah. Walking fast. Head down. Shoulders heavy. Toward the old district behind the building where only rundown shops and forgotten streets existed. Adrian frowned. Something tugged inside him, a strange mix of curiosity, guilt, and a feeling he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years, humanity. Without overthinking, he grabbed his coat and followed quietly. Noah moved quickly, navigating alleys and dark corners until he reached the back of an old closed bakery. Adrian stayed hidden, watching. Noah slipped behind the building, toward the narrow spot between 2 walls. And then Adrian heard it. A child's cough. Weak. Painful. Adrian stepped closer, and what he saw made him freeze completely. In the shadows, curled up on a thin blanket, was Liam, small, pale, shivering. Not at home. Not with a babysitter. Not safe. They were living here. Sleeping here. Surviving here. Noah knelt down, took off his own jacket, and wrapped it around his son, whispering, I'm here, buddy. I'm sorry. Dad's here. Adrian felt something he hadn't felt in a decade, shame. Heavy. Crushing. Hot in his chest, this wasn't an irresponsible employee, this was a father fighting a war alone. Adrian walked backward, stunned, and returned home with the image burned into his mind so deeply he couldn't sleep. The next morning he went back to the alley desperate to correct what he had destroyed, but Noah and Liam were gone. He found them near a bus stop, Liam wrapped in a blanket, coughing again. Noah stiffened when he saw him, fear tightening his face. "Sir, we're not trespassing. We're just waiting for the free clinic." Adrian stepped closer. "Why didn't you tell someone?" Noah laughed bitterly. "People don't want complicated employees. And a man with a sick kid and no home? That's too complicated." Adrian swallowed the guilt like glass. "Let me take him to the doctor. We'll manage." "You're not managing," Adrian said quietly. "Let me help." Liam coughed again, harder, and Noah's resistance broke. He nodded. Adrian drove them to the clinic himself. While Liam was being examined, Noah sat with his head in his hands, whispering, "You weren't supposed to see any of that." "You shouldn't have had to hide it," Adrian replied softly. The doctor returned with the diagnosis: severe throat infection made worse by cold nights. Liam needed warmth, care, and rest, things Noah couldn't provide without a stable job. When they stepped out of the clinic, Adrian exhaled and said, "Noah, come back to work." Noah froze. "Sir, no. I can't go through that again. And I can't promise perfection. My life isn't perfect." "I'm not asking for perfection," Adrian said. "I'm asking you to let me fix what I broke." Noah's eyes filled instantly. "You don't owe us anything." "I owe you an apology," Adrian said quietly. "And a chance." He didn't stop there. He arranged temporary housing for Noah and Liam, safe, warm, close to work. A place where Liam recovered slowly, finally sleeping without shivers. Adrian visited often, bringing soup, toys, and warmth in ways he never expected from himself. Week by week, Noah rebuilt his life. He worked harder than ever, now with stability instead of fear. Liam grew stronger. And Adrian, for the first time in years, remembered what it meant to care about people instead of just numbers. One evening, as the office lights dimmed and Noah packed up his files, Adrian stood beside him and said softly, "You taught me something important." "What's that?" Noah asked. "That sometimes the strongest people," Adrian said, "are the ones fighting battles no one else sees." Noah smiled gently. "And sometimes the coldest people are the ones who just forgot how to feel." Adrian didn't argue. He simply nodded, humbled, changed. Their lives didn't become a fairy tale. But something powerful formed between them: respect, understanding, and a bond built on truth discovered in the darkest alley of the night. And from that night onward, both men carried a reminder: a single act of humanity can rewrite someone's entire world, and sometimes, the person you fire at 8 a.m. might become the person who changes you at midnight.